Hey guys. So it's been a minute. Quick thing before we start the video. I know it's been a bit since I last uploaded, about 2 or 3 months to be specific, but I just wanted to let you know to take this video as me attempting to return to my normal schedule. I've just been really busy with school recently and some personal issues that have sort of hit hard on the side. And as you can imagine, with everything going on, I haven't really had the motivation to make videos for a while, but at the time of writing the script, I'm finally picking up the pieces and just getting things back in order. So in short, I'm feeling much better about everything going on, and I'm ready to get back on my grind of making these videos because honestly, it's just something I enjoy. If I'm being real, I kind of missed being able to write these scripts and just make videos that you guys enjoy and that I enjoy. So yeah, I'm ready to get back into it, and that being said, I just wanted to thank everyone who's still watching these little reviews of mine. It honestly means a lot to know people are watching and enjoying these despite my lack of experience with everything. I mean, I've gotten a lot of nice and interesting comments from all of you throughout the course of the entire situation, and it's honestly just been like playing a huge role in keeping me motivated. It's made me want to keep coming back to making these, so honestly just thank you to everyone involved, no matter if you're just passing by or if you're here for the ride. I honestly do appreciate it, and thank you guys very much. You know what else I appreciate? Good writing. See how I'm segueing this? The world of Cyberpunk Edgerunners was fucking crazy, and I say that shit affectionately. Through the use of the vibrant art, as well as an amazing amount of world building and character development throughout the series, this anime attracted its audience in a way that constantly left them wanting more. Of the soundtrack. If I see one more fucking rendition of I Want to Stay at Your House, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. Please stop, it's not even that good of a soundtrack. Just stop. Jokes aside, the anime attracted a lot of attention for various reasons and ended up being a fucking hit, as I'm sure most of you already know. That being said, I should probably mention that Cyberpunk Edgerunners was not my first choice to review. This is partially because by the time I got around to actually watching the anime, the entire series had already been released, and as I'm sure most of you know by now, the hype train was pretty damn long as is. As for the other half of that equation, let me just say that there are a few things in this world that I generally just don't fuck with. Heights, spiders, Netflix original anime. All things that make me grimace with either disgust or fear, sometimes maybe even both. And would you believe me if I told you... Wait, what's that there? So far away I can't see it. A little closer? Oh. Fuck me. Night City. So beautiful. So serene. Going into this anime, I honestly had no idea what to expect. When the launch date of Cyberpunk 2077 was released, I was probably one of the few in the world who weren't frothing at the mouth to pre-order a copy of the game. I've never really played it, mainly just because I only stick with my main two, which is Rust and CSGO. Both games that I just fucking hate. Like, I just hate them. With that being the case, I got a pretty fresh start with the anime and was hella impressed with the first episode. I've always thought the most interesting thing about episode 1 is how it somehow tells the entire story of a city within a 20-minute time period. I guess I just never really thought about it on my first watch of the show, but after watching it again, so I can know what the fuck I'm talking about in this video, I came to realize that the layout of the first episode sets the audience up with a vivid image of what the city is like pretty early on. Obviously, there's the bit where, this happens. But would you believe me if I told you this scene served as an introduction to probably the most important concept of the entire show? To put things bluntly, after watching this anime, I felt stupid. The concept of cyberpsychosis is something constantly played with throughout the anime, and is the main driving point in the progression of the main character, David. And within the first 5 minutes of the first episode, we get a glimpse of the potential path David could find himself down should he not be cautious of cybernetic implants. If you know how David's story ends, you're probably in the same boat as I am and figured it out after your second watch around. Or you completely saw where it was going the entire time, and I'm just dumb. I'll let you decide. Regardless, I don't really plan to get too heavily into this concept, as to be honest, I'm sure most of you probably know what I'm talking about or have at least heard about it. So instead, I'm going to talk about what I liked about the show and how it broke my expectations. The first topic on the list is a little something I like to call world building. This is a problematic term for some anime. Outside of plot foreshadowing, there's literally so many small things throughout the world that paint Night City to be this merciless two-sided prison. Things I sure as hell did not notice on my first watch of the series. Or rather, I guess I just didn't recognize the importance. It doesn't really matter. The point is that within the first 5 to 10 minutes of the anime, we're introduced to so many different parts of Night City that really help define it as the city it is. The greasy, bat-wielding hobos living around every graffiti-painted corner, slurping noodles, and probably each other, just saying. The constant expenses being wired through an unforgiving database, and the crippling anxiety of not being able to handle it all. Even the emotionless gap between social class that makes the difference between you getting medical treatment or being left to a city meat wagon. A fucking meat wagon. I can't even make this shit up. That shit's just so out of place to me. There's legitimately so many other little parts of this city that really just help define it as a collective shithole, but if I had to name all of them, we'd be here all day. I do, however, think it's interesting that all the concepts I just referenced and many more are introduced on David's 5-minute walk to school. At least most of them are anyway. That might not really seem important at first, but think about it. My man's walked to school, cushioned himself on a pile of trash bags, witnessed a robbery, passed a gaggle of hobos jacking it in public, saw both a man and his meal get shit on simultaneously, and only then was he able to attend class. Witnessing these events from a third-person point of view gives us as the audience a clear image of what to expect in this city from the very beginning of the first episode. From what we see of David's reaction to the events around him, we know Night City is run down, and we know these things are normal in their own fucked up way. And though I haven't the slightest idea why someone would resign themselves to this fate, he even joins in at one point to sulk in probably the most inconvenient spot I have ever seen. No, David, not there, bro. Why there? That's the splash zone. You can't do that. Case in point, I don't know how they managed to write the first episode so well, but somehow David's walk to school is literally more eventful than some anime entirely, and I think that's definitely something important to consider when looking at how the world is built in the first beginning portions of the show. Aside from that, it's important to recognize that unlike most people in Night City, David lives in a sort of gray area between having money and being broke. His mother overworks herself constantly to provide a life for him, but it's clear from the very beginning that the burdens, both socially and monetarily, of Night City have made him numb towards looking for a brighter future. Giving David this sort of pessimistic attitude towards life and school was a very good move in my opinion, because to me, that's some realistic shit. We see a lot of anime where the main protagonist is ignorant but hopeful, smart, and willing to try anything to overcome the obstacles in his way. David, he just kind of... My man's literally looked to his mom like, yeah, so shot in the dark here, but just kind of thinking, what if I just dropped out, My thoughts, questions, concerns? No? You're crying? Oh, okay, yeah. Well, we'll talk later. David essentially just gave up entirely by the time he hit high school, and this isn't entirely uncommon in a city where most people probably eat rocks as an Olympic sport. Regardless, seeing David bled of his innocence in such an honestly kind of depressing way was actually something that hit pretty hard the first time around, and really helped set up the general atmosphere of Night City. More than that, however, it sets up the plot in a way where the story is shifted to one of adaptation to a new life. When David essentially decides to give Arasaka the finger, he's very unorganized, but more than that, his pessimism towards school causes him to seek a new way of life. When he joins the rest of the Edgerunners, he's very naive, so much so that I would argue the fact that he's not aware at all of the risk he's agreed to. Case in point,
don't you feel silly? Don't you feel stupid? Don't you feel a little ashamed?
Due to the fact that he sees no future in Arasaka though, he pushes on and is forced to learn along the way. Clearly, he has no idea what the fuck he's doing, but he's forced to learn so he doesn't have to go back to an arguably shittier way of life. And having motivations like that are important for character development. It's a linear progression, and it's one I thought was damn enjoyable as I progressed through the anime. Watching David learn from getting hit in the head with a bat, watching him learn about the different intricacies of edge running on his jogs with Lucy, and watching him struggle with the concept of potentially having to take a life someday. These different learning experiences he shares with the main cast was done in such a way that I can only think, damn. You know, the people who made this anime really did give a shit about their work. Overall, I was genuinely impressed with how the show continued to just build higher and higher onto itself. I think another good example of this relates to the fact that the anime sometimes challenges its own beliefs. It's a universal rule in Night City that the only one you can trust is yourself. We see after the death of David's mother, spoiler by the way, not sure if you knew that he's left all alone with his only source of energy being the work laid out in front of him by his crew. In the process though, we see David get a little more than he bargained for. Though all of the characters are seemingly concerned with their own safety, there are moments of community. Moments where we as the audience can look past the rotten core of the city and see something good and harmonious. In its own way, Main's crew is much like a family. One that we as the audience get to learn from and experience with David as though we're there. Each and every one of these characters are so lifelike with personalities that go beyond a blank slate or a trope we've seen 100 times in various different anime, and I can respect that. There's Main, the father figure that David never had in his life, who since the beginning of his time working with him has always been there to give him advice and help where needed. There's Rebecca, the sporadic, high-energy little sister character who keeps his spirits up when times are tough. And of course there's Lucy, the girl he falls in love with along the way that later becomes his motivation in the latter parts of the show. Each character, even outside the ones I've named, serves an amazing purpose in David's life, and in turn has an effect on the audience. Through experiences both warm and ice cold, we get to live alongside these characters through David's eyes, learning about their goals, their motivations, and their pasts as we get a better image of who they fully are along the way. In my opinion, this development is by far one of the most important aspects you can focus on in a show. Obviously, there are many more aspects that make an anime great, but without the characters for an audience to attach themselves to, you won't get very far. Edgerunners, in my opinion, did an amazing job with this concept though, and wrote their characters in a way that was both free-flowing and memorable. That being said, I really do recommend you check it out if you somehow haven't already. There's so much shit to enjoy in this anime, and I couldn't begin to list it all out even if I tried. Cyberpunk Edgerunners was the animated fix of an otherwise disastrous video game launch, and if it piques your interest, it'll definitely be worth your time. That said, thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in the next vid. Itterashai!